So there's a problem, really, in the telecommunications industry about complaint handling and about customer service. So how would we design a better complaint handling system? Well, I'm going to talk really in terms of some, very briefly, in terms of some high-level principles. The principles are ones that I developed in work with a colleague, Linda Leonard, a couple of years ago. I don't think they're particularly controversial. They're based partly on ISO standards for complaint handling, and they should seem fairly familiar to everybody here, although the actual wording might be slightly different. The important thing, however, is how you put these principles into practice, what they actually mean. In a very important way, to make them effective, to get a good complaints handling system, you have to work through the detail and the effects of rules and such like, as we'll see. Now, I'm going to start with internal systems, because I think this is probably where the real issue lies. Because you need the companies to get their complaint handling up to scratch at the beginning. The external systems, like the TIO, are really, in some sense, just the recipients of bad complaint handling by the company, or complaint handling which doesn't meet customers' satisfaction. I've identified 5 principles here, as you'll see: accessibility, effectiveness, fairness and consistency, responsiveness, organizational ownership and commitment. I'll just say a brief bit about each of them. In terms of accessibility, it's easy for us all to say, well, what we want is a system it's easy for the consumers to get access to. There's clear information about what's going to happen, and of course, that is free. In practice, things can be a bit more difficult. I did the thing I normally do whenever I think about accessibility. I went and looked at a couple of websites before I did this presentation. I didn't spend very much time on this, and it's not scientific, but obviously I picked on Telstra's website, and right on the front of it, it says, here's a link you can click on to make a complaint. And then underneath it, it has a slight, probably less used website bit, which says, and here you can send us a compliment. Okay, but I can, Telstra, you just click on that, and it's got a simple form you fill in to make a complaint. I then tried Optus, and I spent 5 or 10 minutes with the Optus site, and I couldn't find the link to make a complaint. Now, I'm sure somebody can explain to me what I missed, but if I can't find the link on how to make a complaint, and I've been doing this for some years, then there are going to be a lot of other people who are going to miss that. And that leads to a more general point, that the more problems you put in a complaint handling system, the more stages, you're going to get people dropping out. That's one other thing we know, that if it's difficult to complain, people stop at various points. And so you need a system which is easy to get access to and doesn't put barriers in the way. And I think it was Chris Dodd earlier this morning also had a very good point on the problems about accessing systems through mobiles. Systems which in principle are free, but actually in practice aren't. So there are a number of issues there. And the other thing, and you can move from there to effectiveness, because you want an internal system that's effective, where the staff have the ability to respond to the complaint, and where the organization might actually learn from the complaints. And again, there's some question about how effective the existing systems are. It was interesting looking at ACAN's survey of its members that it's just published, that's in your pack. when I asked members about what they did about complaints, there were just under a third of them said, well, actually, we didn't do anything about this complaint. And again, I think that's significant, that you do a survey of consumer activists with complaints about telecoms companies, and a third of them say, well, we just couldn't be bothered to do anything about it. Suggests that, there may be quite a lot of people who are not bothering to do things. Again, fairness and responsiveness. You want a system that's objective, and you want a system where the staff actually listen to your complaint and hear it. And it's clearly an issue with call centres where staff come up with essentially pre-programmed responses to people's complaints and don't sound as if they've actually listened to what's been said. It's very important to have an internal system that's responsive, that certainly doesn't move the customer around, because the more you move the customer around, the more you say, well, look, I can't deal with this, talk to this person, the more likely people are to give up. Because there comes a point when you say, well, okay, I've talked to 2 people, I haven't got an answer, maybe I'm just going to have to lump it. You want, of course, customers, of course, want a response in a timely manner, and this is something that has been a particular problem in the United Kingdom, where the Office of Communications reckons that each year there's something like 3 million complaints to telecoms companies which have not been resolved within 3 months. And 3 months is significant because that's the sort of agreed time limit for the redress schemes. They've got 3 months to resolve them. And Ofcom reckons there are 3 million a year that aren't resolved within that time limit, which suggests there's actually quite a big problem here in that. And a final point about internal schemes is the importance of organisational ownership and commitment. And this was something that was said to me a couple of years ago by the chair of the local ombudsman at the time, who said that what you really need to get a good, effective internal scheme is for the leadership of the organisation to buy into this and to be committed to it. And that does actually need more than the chief executive, say, signing up to these high-level principles. It needs to become an integral part of the organisation. Because it's quite easy, as I say, to sign up to these principles, which most people agree with, and to do this in quite good faith. But there is a problem in big organisations where those who are leading say, well, these are the principles that we're going to hold to and that we agree with, but that doesn't necessarily mean it percolates down to the frontline staff. You've got to work quite hard to integrate complaints handling as part of what you do. And, for example, have a system where you get complaints reports that go, for example, to the board of directors on a regular basis to see what's happening. And just to go back to this point, it is important. It's actually an opportunity for companies not only to solve problems within their organisation, but to find new opportunities.